At 26, I became engaged to my college sweetheart, John, with plans to marry in a year. Just a week before the wedding, however, John eloped with my stepsister, Mia, leaving me only a letter that detailed his betrayal. In it, he confessed that their affair had begun shortly after our engagement, and he felt it was unfair to marry me since he had fallen in love with her. Devastated, I was left to pick up the pieces while John's parents, embarrassed by their son's actions, covered the full cost of our wedding. My stepfather, who had raised me since childhood, was furious. He even considered hiring a private investigator to track down John and Mia for an explanation. Mia had always been cruel to me since our families merged, and her behavior escalated from petty bullying during our school years to more troublesome actions as she grew older. Despite my parents' attempts to discipline her, she remained rebellious, turning to smoking, drinking, and eventually legal trouble that landed her in a rehabilitation center for troubled teens. My parents intervened, hoping to correct her path and restore some peace at home. Years passed without a word from them, but suddenly, John and Mia reappeared, now facing financial struggles and seeking jobs at our family's shoe factory, a position that had originally been intended for Mia. It was surreal to see them back, asking for help from the very family they had turned their backs on. During her time at the rehabilitation center, Mia transferred to a new school near her aunt's house, and I rarely thought of her. She had been my primary tormentor, and her absence made high school life much more enjoyable. When she left, her friends distanced themselves from me too, which was a relief. My parents often visited her, asking if I wanted to join, but I consistently declined. When she returned after graduation, she surprised me by extending an olive branch, apologizing for her past behavior. She seemed genuinely calmer and more mature, and with college on the horizon for both of us, I felt it was time to forgive and move on. We went to different colleges but returned home during the holidays. During those visits, I noticed a significant change in her demeanor. She no longer radiated hostility and would merely acknowledge my presence without engaging further. While it wasn't warm, it was certainly better than before. Our parents noticed the shift too, yet they opted not to push for deeper reconciliation, understanding the complexity of our past. A year into my relationship with John, I brought him home for Thanksgiving. I noticed Mia participating more in family conversations, especially with John, which was odd given her previous indifference. As John and I continued to date, Mia began reaching out more, initiating conversations, a stark contrast to her previous behavior. Confused and slightly suspicious, I confronted her about her sudden interest in friendship, wondering if it was related to John. She laughed off my concerns, claiming that John's stories about his close-knit family had inspired her to mend our relationship. She confessed that she had long blamed me for her issues but had come to realize her actions were her own doing. She was genuinely trying to integrate into the family, starting with a heartfelt apology to me. Touched by her sincerity, I chose to forgive her and embrace this new chapter in our relationship. We gradually rebuilt our connection, meeting regularly and engaging more at family events. By the time I got engaged, Mia and I were on amicable terms, and she had even met John before our engagement announcement. She actively participated in the wedding preparations, and although we weren't the closest friends, our relationship had improved remarkably. At family gatherings, she and John interacted normally, and everything seemed fine, allowing me to trust in the authenticity of her transformation. Everything seemed perfectly normal after I got engaged. Mia and John appeared to get along well, and there was no sign of trouble. But that illusion shattered just a week before the wedding when both Mia and John vanished together, leaving me devastated and humiliated. Despite my parents' urge to intervene, I made the difficult choice to let them go, deciding to move forward from the betrayal rather than letting it consume me. In the weeks that followed, I buried myself in work and sought refuge in sleep, doing everything I could to avoid the emotional pain. But the wound deepened when Mia sent a postcard from California, flaunting her happiness with John. She made it clear she felt no remorse, rubbing salt into the wound. That's when it hit me, Mia had never truly forgiven me for the past. Our so-called reconciliation had been a facade, a way for her to get closer to John and exact her revenge. Realizing this, I sought therapy to deal with the betrayal and address my growing trust issues. Mia continued to send postcards, each one more hurtful than the last, detailing her life with John, but when I stopped acknowledging them altogether, the letters finally ceased. Our parents, disgusted by her behavior, cut all ties with her. She lost her place in the family and any chance at inheriting her father's 60-shoe factory, a position once intended for her. Although I had a background in history, my father offered me the opportunity to take over the factory in Mia's absence. It was a significant shift in my life, but one that allowed me to refocus my energy and start reclaiming my sense of self-worth. I accepted the challenge, and after years of relentless effort, I was promoted when my father retired. Now, as the manager of the 60-shoe factory, I find fulfillment and have largely moved on from my past struggles. It was ironic when Mia and John reached out for help after their earlier cruelty. I couldn't help but notice the timing. Just recently, during a quiet weekend at home, I was jolted from my thoughts by a frantic ringing at the doorbell. Initially, I thought it was the pizza I had just ordered, so I rushed to the door expecting the delivery person. Instead, when I opened the door, I was greeted by Mia, looking distressed and completely out of her element. She wore tattered, faded clothes that spoke of better days, with jeans that were too short and a frame that seemed thinner, suggesting she hadn't been eating well. Seeing her disheveled state made it painfully clear that she had come seeking help. Despite her past betrayals, part of me wasn't surprised she had arrived like this, but I had already resolved that no matter what she said, my answer would be an unyielding no. Mia wasted no time in laying out her situation. She explained that both she and John had fallen on hard times after he lost his job months ago. Instead of seeking new employment, he had turned to drinking. Mia had quit her position as a personal assistant after they moved in together, leaving her with a significant gap in her resume that made her virtually unemployable. She had heard from relatives that I had taken over the family shoe factory after our father retired, and now she was hoping I would offer John a job. She apologized for her past actions, claiming she had come directly to me instead of our parents because she believed I was kind-hearted and wouldn't turn her away in her time of need. Her audacity was almost comical, and I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief at her sense of entitlement. I told her bluntly that I didn't employ cheaters and promptly shut the door, half prepared to call the police if she lingered. Thankfully, she left without further incident. Once she was gone, I immediately called our parents to inform them about her unexpected visit. They had already heard rumors that Mia was back in town, albeit without John. In our small, tight-knit community, news travels fast, and it didn't take long for them to confirm that she had been staying with a high school friend, likely tipped off about my new role at the factory. Days after her visit, Mia approached our parents, possibly trying to win their sympathy by painting me as the heartless one. However, she miscalculated. My father firmly told her that the shoe factory was under my management and that I had full authority over decisions. My mother reminded Mia of her deceitful past, emphasizing that she had forfeited any right to our assistance, especially after sending those taunting postcards. Mia tried to defend herself, insisting that she had changed, but our parents remained unmoved. They asked her to leave, no longer willing to have any association with her. This prompted her to throw a tantrum, accusing them of favoring me and labeling me the golden child. This only reinforced their resolve, and they reiterated that she was unwelcome, closing the door on any chance of reconciliation. In her moment of desperation, she confided in my father, expressing her hurt over feeling overshadowed by me. Despite being his daughter, she argued that I seemed to be his sole focus and that she felt worthless in comparison. My father pointed out that he had been more lenient with her than most parents would be, but she dismissed this, insisting it didn't change her plight. Mia felt deprived of opportunities, like the chance to run the family shoe factory, a position she believed was rightfully hers, which I had seemingly taken. She even lamented John's choice to be with her, questioning why she was suffering the consequences for his actions. According to her, the postcards were sincere attempts at reconciliation, not schemes to provoke me. This revelation has stuck with me, especially since there's some truth in her claim about her rightful inheritance of the shoe factory, which she lost due to her own choices, not because of any manipulation on my part. I never pressured my father to exclude her. That decision was entirely his. Yet, it feels unjust that she blames me, labeling me the favored child when that's simply not true. I understand her perspective, especially if she believes her exile was due to my complaints about her behavior. That's a significant decision for a parent to make, and while it weighed heavily on my father, it was neither his fault nor mine. Had he not intervened, Mia's path could have been far darker. As for the postcards, I doubt they were genuine apologies. They seemed more like a facade, Despite everything, I can't help but feel some sympathy for Mia, especially considering her husband's failures, which she now has to face alone. Coming to me for help must have taken a lot of courage, and part of me regrets being so harsh. Now that I have everything and she has so little, I can't help but feel pity for her. It's just part of my nature. Time has passed, and I'm no longer inclined to hold a grudge, but I can't see a way to help her financially or by offering jobs. The most I can offer is my sympathy. Even after all the turmoil she caused, most people wouldn't even feel that much. The realization that the shoe factory should have been hers makes me question my own role in all this, wondering if my success is just a form of revenge. These feelings, combined with doubts like imposter syndrome, leave me in a state of conflict. It's tough to refuse to employ my ex-fiancé, who ran off with my stepsister, especially now that they're in need. The advice I receive is mixed, adding to my confusion. I turn to my parents, who always help guide me through difficult times. They reminded me that we've done all we could for Mia. If she isn't ready to change, there's little more we can do. My father had every intention of passing the shoe factory to her if she had behaved and been a supportive family member. However, her actions have excluded her from those plans and the family dynamic. As my father and I agree, it's unreasonable to expect otherwise under the circumstances. After discussing things with my parents, I usually feel a weight lifted off my shoulders. I've decided to release any unnecessary guilt about the past. It's been a week since Mia showed up unannounced at my house, and we hadn't heard from her after she visited our parents, until today. She unexpectedly arrived at my workplace, making quite a scene. Knowing the layout from her childhood, she bypassed security and positioned herself outside my office, loudly accusing me of stealing the family shoe factory by playing the obedient daughter and framing her for childhood bullying to secure my status as the favored child. She insisted the shoe factory should have been hers and claimed I was keeping her out because I was jealous of her relationship with John. According to her, I couldn't handle not being the center of attention and had turned our parents against her. Hearing the commotion, I rushed to see what was happening and called security. I tried to calm the situation, but she continued her tirade until security escorted her out. I called my dad to discuss whether to involve the police, and he, furious, advised me to proceed. The police found her lingering near the building and charged her with trespassing and disturbing the peace, minor offenses, but they would still mar her record. When I relayed the charges to my dad, I expected him to be upset, but he merely sighed in exasperation, expressing his weariness with her antics. It's tough on him to deal with the constant blame for Mia's self-inflicted choices. 5 days have passed since the incident, and it appears Mia has returned to California. We thought she might retaliate after her arrest, but my dad learned through some inquiries that she was spotted at the airport. It's a relief to think she might stay away for a while. I'm not optimistic about her finding resolution with John or finding support elsewhere. For their sake, I hope they can secure jobs and become self-sufficient, because if they don't, they might come back and stir up more trouble. For now, I'm just grateful for a break from the drama.